Well, I'm up on top of the San Pedro mountain where there's this big flat plateau, but thunderstorms come in and it's decided to be thunder hail. So, yeah, definitely wasn't anything forecast like this today, but I guess when you're up in the mountains kind of make their own weather. But it looks like it should pass, hopefully. These are big enough they actually sting when they hit you. So I have to make sure to face away from the direction it's coming. So after dealing with all that thunder hail, I finally got to the other side of that giant flat top mountain, and there were some stunning views, blue skies. It was awesome. This area of New Mexico was absolutely beautiful. It was much prettier than I was expecting. Good morning. It's the 27th, which is a Saturday, and also the 27th day on trail. I am on the north side, or coming back down off of the San Pedro High Point Plateau, which is the first big mountain that you go up and over out of Cuba. Yesterday was a lot of fun. There was lots of snow, even more standing water and snowmelt and mud on the trail. Less snow than I would have thought, and more standing water than I would have guessed, but that makes sense, right? Like one turns into the other. But it's really beautiful here. This reminds me a lot of Vermont in the summer, but the trees are different. So you still have your ponderosa pines here, but you start getting a lot of the quaking aspen. And there's some Fraser fir around too for conifers. But it reminds me a lot of the white birch and the balsam fir and the white pines of Vermont. You might be able to hear it, but you can't see it. But right where that little ditch is, there's a spring that just shoots out of the ground. So it's giving me perfectly clear, gorgeous cold water. So I'm really looking forward to today. I think it's going to be a lot more of this beautiful wood sorways with less or no snow, since I'm going downhill for a lot of the day. So shaping up to be a good day. And then I plan to sleep pretty close, maybe 5 to 8 miles outside of Ghost Ranch, and do a short Nero day into there tomorrow. This area here is the Santa Fe National Forest, and I was really nervous about this having fire closures because last year this entire forest was shut down preemptively, and you had to essentially skip over 100 miles of the CDT because the national forest was closed because it was particularly bad fire conditions. And eventually it did catch on fire and it burned very badly. But because of all the rain and high snow that they had in this area, I didn't have any fire closures in New Mexico. So we're at exactly 4 weeks into it, 28th day out here. Looking down here, this is a dispersed, I'm assuming state campground area with nice big pit toilets, but other than that, no amenities besides dirt roads with flat spots down there. So a lot of options down there. This area was stunning. It's the area near Ghost Ranch, which is like a learning center and a camping spot in northern New Mexico. It has a museum and hosts venues and events and all sorts of stuff. So it also has some really unique rock features, and was home to Georgia O'Keeffe, the famous artist who summer homed here and then had a winter home just the next town over in Abiquiu. But this is where I got off the trail, and there was still a ton of snow in Colorado, so I opted to take some time off in Santa Fe with some family friends. While I was eating that ice cream there, this is in the town of Madrid, that is a chicken with a diaper. That really happened. And Vanessa flew out. She was able to get some time off from work sort of last minute. So she came out and visited, and I ended up taking a 7-ish, depending how you want to call it, 7 or 8 days off.
and we spent time together and went around and saw a bunch of Indian ruins and some really kind of unique stuff. So we had a great time together.
Day 36, so fast forward about 8 days. I'm just getting back on the trail now at Ghost Ranch. I took about 7.5 days off to go into Santa Fe to visit with some family friends, and my wife Vanessa flew out to meet me, so I let some of that Colorado snow continue to melt, hopefully, but now I'm back out. I'm really excited to be back out here. I've climbed most of the way out of Box Canyon, and this is a really pretty spot because you can see the top of Chimney Rock over there. Ghost Ranch down there by the kind of the lush green with the buildings. And then that beautiful mesa over there, I believe it's called the Pedernal, and that was one of Georgia O'Keeffe's favorite things to paint. So after a long, slow and steady climb up from Ghost Ranch, I'm finally at this sort of crest of this hill, and I'm rewarded with a pretty view. From here, a tiny bit of snow still hanging out in those mountains. I haven't been taking a lot of evening videos, so I figured since I'm all done with my chores and dinner and all that stuff, I might as well. So I'm up pretty high. I'm probably around 9,000 feet in northern New Mexico. Some really pretty cow fields up here where there's actually really green grass and pretty clear cow ponds and springs. So the cows up here, their lives are much higher quality than the ones further south. But got a nice tent site on some pine needles underneath that tree. And then you can see my bear hang up there. The sun dipped behind the horizon, probably 15 minutes ago. It's chilly. It's got to be probably in the mid-40s and dropping fast. It's an absolutely gorgeous morning in northern New Mexico. It's June 6th, about 20 after 7. And this is the first time I've seen the actual true CDT in quite a few days since I took my week off and have been on the Ghost Ranch alternate. So there's the first official tree marker, and here's the real trail. It should be a little bit easier to follow than some of the less traveled sections that I was on yesterday. It's stunning up here. What a big, beautiful meadow. There's purple iris all over the place. Off in the distance that way you can just start to make out the bigger mountains that look like they've got some snow on them. It's been a wonderful morning. The only downside to today, which is my own fault, I slept with my water filter in the footbox of my extra long sleeping bag because I just switched to my snow gear. And there's so much extra room I didn't bump it with my feet or remember to take it out. So the only negative so far in the day is that my water filter is packed in with my sleeping bag at the very, very bottom of my backpack. So when it comes time to get water, I have to unpack every single thing in my pack, including my stuff sack with my sleeping bag, which is the hardest thing to pack just to get that thing out, but it can't be avoided.
A friend of mine, before I had started the CDT, sent me a video, and it was an interview of John Z interviewing this guy right here. His name is Courier, his trail name. He's from Taiwan, and he thru-hiked the Pacific Crest Trail last year in 2022. And so I saw in this sort of unofficial sign-up thing where you could exchange information and emails and things that he was planning on starting right around the same time that I was. So having seen him in those videos, I wanted to meet him, and so it was really kind of cool that I got to bump into him here. And then, sort of a spoiler alert, I ended up leapfrogging with him and his partner a whole bunch of times. So it was a really cool experience to meet him and learn more about him, and this is the first time that I saw him was right here.
Up above about 10,100 feet, there's still significant snow in the shade. It's relatively firm. Every once in a while you post hole a little bit, but it's pretty fast going. I'm set up for the night at the Rio Vitos, I believe it's pronounced. And hopefully here. There's boomers moving in. So I found this awesome spot, really soft pine needles underneath me, a little sappy, but the tree should offer me pretty good protection from wind and rain, and also the moon's full. I had a really hard time sleeping last night because that moon rose around like sometime around 1 o'clock, full moon, and it was shining right in my face. I woke up like 1,000 times, so hopefully that helps with that a little bit too. But here's the river. This is one that I was a little bit nervous about because some folks, back when there was a lot of snow in here with all the snow melt, were saying that they didn't think it was passable safely. So I was a little bit nervous about it. It's much, much, much lower now. As you can see, it's not covered in snow here. And I even if it's debatably necessary or not, I always like to get my food up in a tree. I just feel like it's a good habit. And this campsite seems pretty popular, so there could be rodents here. I'm less worried about bears than I am mice. But while we're going, why don't I take the time to show what I've got going on here. So here's my gravity system. I'm getting all my water filtered for the morning just so I don't have to do it then. And I've tucked all my stuff kind of in that corner there, the vestibule, in case I can zip it closed. And my pad's all inflated and pillows all set up and stuff. That Ziploc there is for my filter, in case I feel like I have to sleep with it to keep it from freezing. Alright, June 7th. First thing that I'm doing today is trying to cross this Rio Vitos river, or if that's how you pronounce it. This is the one that had given some people some problems. You can see there's a lot of water moving through. I slept very close by, like only 100 yards from here, kind of hoping that the river would be a little bit more mild in the morning, but it seems about the same. So it's not very wide across, and there's nothing to be had for it. There's no bridge, so I guess I just have to kind of get my feet wet, take my time through it, and move on with my day. Finally, I bumped into some deer. I haven't seen any yet. Them and coyotes are the last two common mammals I haven't seen yet. I've heard a lot of coyotes, but I haven't seen any. But these are the first two deer I've seen the entire trip. I'm all done with my camp chores for the day. I'm somewhere pretty close to the 750 mile marker, and I found a really cool, unique spot. So there's this valley here with this beautiful babbling stream. Kind of winds its way down. And then this is my spot here. So there is a fire ring. I haven't had a single fire out here. I probably won't the entire time. But I grabbed a pretty nice spot up there. It's protected on the uphill side. If it absolutely poured, I'd have a lot of water potentially running under my tent, but it's still on a rise, so it should come out the other side and not a bowl. And then one other thing that's a little bit unique too, I didn't really have a good tree for my, let's call it a critter hang. It's clearly not a bear hang. A bear could stand up on its back legs and grab it. But it's mainly for squirrels and raccoons. This high meadow is absolutely gorgeous.
One of the most surprising things about New Mexico was that it took me almost a month into my trip before I saw any deer, which is crazy to me because I saw hundreds of them this trip, but I just didn't see any to that point. I had seen almost every other local mammal besides a coyote. All right, here we are, officially in Colorado, done with the first state. So this is the boundary right there, and it's June 8th. So it took me just about a month to get here. I didn't go very fast on purpose because there was a lot of snow, and I also took a week off, of course, in Santa Fe. So it's an exciting milestone. I'm excited to be here. Just a few steps away from the border marker, you can see that I'm on top of a ridge and that this trail drops down into Colorado, down to Route 17, which is the road that people take to get into Chama. So I just figured I would share what this area looks like, and then I have to find a spot to sleep. Well, there you have it, pretty beautiful. Up ahead is Cumbres Pass. There's been a few cars going by, so I've got my fingers crossed that I might get fortunate, catch a ride relatively quickly. But there is a lot less down than I was expecting. From my viewpoint, just up there, all I could see was this valley. And you don't really do that. You actually walk much more along a ridge, including some more uphill, and you find the road up here higher. Made it to Chama. Only had to wait about 5 minutes. A really nice guy who lives in Breckenridge pulled over and gave me a lift. He's on his way to go raft on the Rio Chama, which I did pass back by Ghost Ranch. So I am in town bright and early. Currently walking to the laundromat to go take care of that. And then I'll get checked into my motel later. On a normal snow year, this is where a lot of CDT hikers will mail their winter gear and their snow gear to get ready for the San Juans, which are the most notorious and challenging and almost always the most snow-covered mountains for northbounders. The town was smaller than I was expecting, but it was a cool little town. It had a lot of nice little shops and coffee places and a little gear outfitter and everything, so it was a cool stop. I had been a little bit nervous getting to this point because I knew it was sort of the end of New Mexico and the beginning of Colorado, which just has such a strong reputation for being very challenging. So now that I was actually in Chama, all of that was kind of resting in my head. Like, am I going to be able to do this? There was a ton of snow. It was an extra high snow year. A lot of things were up in the air, but I knew it was really sort of the beginning of getting into the real snow in the extra big mountains. Here we go. I just got a ride back up to Cumbres Pass from Mitch at Tumbleon Outfitters in Chama. If you're in the area, definitely go check them out. Awesome people. And it's kind of game on now. I'm loaded up with all my snow gear and entering into the real Colorado mountains. So I don't know exactly what to expect. I almost always picture things a lot more intense than they end up being, but there's only one way to find out. So time to get up there.